The storm had been raging for 3 days without pause. White wind screamed across the frozen plains, turning the world into a moving wall of snow and ice. Visibility dropped to almost nothing, and even the sky seemed to vanish, swallowed by endless gray. On this distant planet, storms like this could bury entire structures in hours. Elias Kane moved carefully through the blizzard, each step measured, each breath controlled. He was a human explorer from Earth, part of a long-range survey mission sent to chart unclaimed worlds beyond known space. His suit was thick and scarred, marked by months of travel and survival. Frost clung to his visor, and warning lights blinked on the edge of his display, reminding him that the cold was winning. Slowly but surely, he should have turned back hours ago. The base camp was only 2 kilometers behind him, but the storm had shifted direction without warning. What should have been a simple scan run turned into a fight to stay upright. Still, Elias pressed forward. His scanners had detected something unusual beneath the ice ahead. Not minerals, not wreckage, life signs. At first, he thought the readings were wrong. This planet was considered barely habitable, even for hardened organisms. Nothing intelligent was supposed to be here. But the signals were steady, faint, but undeniable. 2 sources, close together, buried deep under the snow. Elias adjusted his course and moved toward the signal, leaning into the wind. The ground beneath his boots crunched and groaned, thick ice plates shifting under pressure. After several exhausting minutes, he reached a low ridge where the snow had piled high. His scanner pulsed again, stronger now. He knelt and began clearing snow with his gloved hands, then with a compact thermal cutter. Steam rose as ice melted away. Slowly, shapes emerged beneath the frozen surface. Not rocks, not machines. They were bodies. Elias froze, his heart pounding. 2 figures lay side by side, encased in clear ice. They were humanoid, but not human. Their forms were slender, their skin pale with faint glowing patterns beneath it, like soft light trapped under ice. Their faces were calm, almost peaceful, as if sleeping. Their eyes were closed, and strange crystalline markings traced along their temples and arms. Aliens. Alive. The scanner confirmed it. Weak but stable life signs. Some form of suspended state, likely induced by extreme cold. If left here, they would remain frozen until the storm crushed them, or the ice shifted and shattered them completely. Elias swallowed hard. He was alone, far from support, in the middle of a deadly storm. Rescuing them would be dangerous, maybe fatal, but leaving them was not an option. He activated an emergency beacon and marked the location, though he knew help would not arrive in time. Then he expanded his thermal cutter and began working carefully, carving a wide section of ice around the figures. The wind fought him, snow refilling the space as fast as he cleared it. His arms burned with effort, but he kept going. Minutes stretched into an hour. Finally, the ice cracked free in a single massive block. Elias deployed a portable heat field, forming a shimmering dome around the area. The temperature inside rose slowly, just enough to prevent further freezing without shocking their systems. The alien sisters remained motionless, but the glow beneath their skin brightened slightly. That was enough to tell Elias he had done the right thing. He couldn't leave them exposed. With great effort, he activated a grav lift harness and carefully moved the ice block onto a transport sled. The journey back to camp was slow and painful. The storm showed no mercy, and several times Elias nearly collapsed from exhaustion. But at last, the faint outline of his shelter appeared through the snow. Inside the reinforced habitat, the air was warm and dry. Elias sealed the entrance and immediately moved the ice block into the medical bay. He adjusted the heat field, monitoring their vitals closely. Their biology was unfamiliar, but some things were universal. They were alive, and they were waking. The ice melted away over several hours. When it was gone, the 2 aliens lay on the medical platform, breathing slowly. Without the ice distorting their forms, Elias could see more detail. They were nearly identical, clearly related. Their glowing patterns pulsed in gentle rhythm, and faint energy signatures surrounded them like invisible halos. Elias stepped back, unsure what would happen next. One of them stirred. Her eyes opened first, glowing softly with a pale blue light. She looked around slowly, confusion evident in her expression. Her gaze settled on Elias, and she stiffened. The second alien woke moments later, her eyes widening as she saw the unfamiliar environment. They sat up together, moving in perfect sync despite their weakness. Elias raised his hands slowly, palms open, a universal sign of peace. "I'm not a threat," he said aloud, though he knew they might not understand. "You were frozen. I brought you here to save you." The sisters exchanged a look, then one of them tilted her head. A faint hum filled the air. Not sound exactly, but vibration. Elias felt a strange pressure behind his eyes. Images flickered in his mind. A sleek alien ship descending through clouds, warning lights, a sudden crash into ice, cold, darkness, then warmth, light. Elias. They were communicating. Elias took a slow breath and focused. He let the images flow without resistance. He projected his own thoughts as clearly as he could. His ship, the storm, the rescue. The pressure eased. The sisters relaxed slightly. One of them placed a hand over her chest and sent a name through the shared space. Lyra. The other followed. Celine. "I'm Elias," he said softly, touching his own chest. The connection faded, leaving the room quiet except for the hum of equipment. Lyra attempted to stand but nearly collapsed. Elias moved forward instantly, supporting her with a steady grip. Celine steadied herself against the platform. They were fragile, their strength drained by long exposure to cold. "You're safe," Elias said again. "For now." The sisters looked around the shelter, taking in the strange human technology. Despite their condition, their curiosity was clear. Celine reached out and touched a nearby console. Watching the lights respond, Lyra studied Elias closely, her gaze thoughtful rather than fearful. Outside, the storm continued to rage, hammering against the walls of the shelter. The planet showed no sign of mercy, but inside, three beings from different stars stood together, brought together by chance, cold, and a single decision made in the snow. Elias prepared nutrient packs and adjusted the medical systems to support alien physiology as best he could. He didn't know how long the storm would last, or what dangers waited beyond the shelter walls. He didn't know if their ship could be repaired, or if rescue was even possible. What he did know was this: humanity had made first contact on a frozen world. Not through conquest or fear, but through compassion. And whatever came next, nothing would ever be the same. The storm did not stop the next day. It only changed its voice. Instead of screaming wind, there was a deep, constant roar, like the planet itself was breathing. Snow pressed against the shelter walls, and ice tapped softly against the reinforced panels. Inside, the light was steady and warm. Elias had not slept much. He spent most of the night monitoring the medical systems and watching the two aliens carefully. Lyra and Celine rested on the platform, their bodies slowly recovering. Their skin glow had grown stronger and more stable, and their breathing was deeper now. Whatever biology they had, it was resilient. When they finally woke again, they were more alert. Lyra sat up first, moving carefully. Celine followed, her movements slower but more controlled. They no longer looked confused. Instead, they studied their surroundings with calm focus, like trained explorers assessing a new environment. Elias stood a short distance away, giving them space. He held a warm nutrient pack in his hands, unsure if they could eat human food, but willing to try. Lyra noticed the pack and sent a gentle mental signal. This time, the connection was clearer, less overwhelming. Elias felt images instead of pressure. Simple ideas. Warmth. Energy. Survival. He offered the pack. Lyra examined it, then touched it lightly. Her skin shimmered, and the pack warmed further, reacting to her energy field. She smiled faintly, then nodded. Celine did the same with another pack. They ate slowly, their bodies clearly weak but improving with every minute. As they recovered, the mental connection returned in small pieces. Elias learned that Lyra and Selene were part of a long-range exploration group, sent far beyond their home system. Their species valued knowledge and cooperation above all else. They were sisters, not only by birth, but by shared duty. They had trained together since childhood, prepared to face unknown worlds side by side. Their ship had been damaged during atmospheric entry. A violent storm, stronger than predicted, had forced them down. The crash did not destroy the ship, but it left it trapped under ice several kilometers away. With systems failing and temperatures dropping fast, they had entered an emergency stasis, hoping rescue would come. It never did. Until Elias. When Elias shared his own story, he did so with honesty. He showed them images of Earth, of human cities, oceans, deserts, and forests. He showed them humans working together, struggling, surviving. He showed them his mission, a single human far from home, sent not to conquer but to understand. Lyra and Selene listened carefully. They were surprised that he had come alone. On their world, explorers never traveled without support teams. Humans, they realized, were different. Willing to face danger with fewer resources, relying on adaptability rather than certainty. The storm outside intensified again, shaking the shelter. Elias checked the readings. Power levels were stable for now, but fuel was limited. If the storm lasted too long, even this shelter would not be enough. "We need to move," Elias said, knowing they might not understand the words, but hoping the intent would come through. "Your ship. We have to reach it." Lyra and Selene exchanged a look. Images flowed between the three of them. Distance, ice fields, danger, but also hope, they agreed. Preparation took the rest of the day. Elias reinforced their suits, modifying spare gear to fit alien physiology. Their bodies generated some heat naturally, but not enough for long exposure. Selene assisted him, her understanding of energy systems allowing her to improve insulation efficiency with simple adjustments. Lyra helped calibrate navigation sensors, her spatial awareness far more precise than any human scanner. By the time they were ready, Elias realized something important. They were no longer just survivors sharing shelter. They were a team. When the outer door finally opened, the cold rushed in like a living thing. The storm had weakened slightly, but the wind still cut through armor and skin. Snow stretched endlessly in every direction, broken only by distant ice ridges and frozen spires. They moved carefully, tethered together by safety lines. Elias led the way at first, using his scanner to avoid unstable ground. But soon, Lyra began guiding them instead. She could sense subtle shifts beneath the ice. Vibrations Elias's tools could not detect. More than once, she stopped him just before a hidden crack or hollow. Each time, Elias felt a deep respect grow stronger. The journey was slow and exhausting. The cold drained strength with every step. Selene stumbled once, and Elias caught her before she fell. She looked at him with clear gratitude, not spoken, but deeply felt. After hours of travel, the ice began to change. Beneath the snow, dark shapes became visible. Metal, smooth curves, alien design. They had reached the crash site. The ship was partially buried, its hull cracked but intact. One wing-like structure was snapped, embedded deep into the ice. Energy readings were low but present. The ship was alive. Barely. Hope flared inside Elias. They worked together immediately. Lyra accessed the ship's systems through a damaged panel, her hands glowing as she interfaced directly with alien technology. Selene assisted, stabilizing power flows and redirecting energy from non-essential systems. Elias did what he did best. He improvised. Using tools meant for mining and shelter repair, he cut through ice, cleared vents, and reinforced damaged supports. When systems failed, he rerouted power manually. When components were frozen solid, he warmed them slowly, carefully, refusing to rush and risk permanent damage. Hours passed. The storm returned in waves, battering the exposed site. More than once, They had to retreat inside the ship's remains to avoid flying ice shards. Then something changed. Elias felt it before the alarm sounded. The ground vibrated, deep and slow. Not the random movement of shifting ice, but something deliberate, heavy. Lyra froze, her glow intensifying sharply. Fear rippled through the mental link. Images came fast and sharp. A presence. Something ancient. Something that lived beneath the ice. The vibration came again, stronger. A distant crack split the frozen plain, stretching toward them like a wound. Selene shut down several systems instantly, reducing energy output. Hide. Her intent pressed into Elias's mind. It senses power. They retreated deeper into the ship's shadow, shutting off lights and heat where possible. Elias's heart hammered in his chest. He had faced danger before. But this felt different. This was not weather or terrain. This was a guardian. The ice nearby rose and shifted. Massive shapes moved beneath the surface. Slow and unstoppable. The planet was not empty after all. It was alive. And it did not welcome intruders. Elias clenched his fists, his mind racing. They were not ready to fight. They needed to survive. And for the first time since landing on this frozen world, Elias understood something clearly. Saving the sisters was only the beginning. Now, they had to earn the planet's permission to leave. The vibration did not stop. It moved slowly beneath the ice, circling the crashed ship like a giant heartbeat. Snow slid from the broken hull as the ground trembled again. Elias pressed himself against the cold metal. Breathing quietly, Lyra and Selene stood close. Their glowing patterns dimmed as much as possible. They were trying to disappear. The presence below the ice felt aware. Minutes passed. Then the surface cracked open several meters away. Ice plates rose and folded as something massive pushed upward. A shape emerged, tall and wide, formed of ice, stone, and glowing veins of blue light. It did not have eyes in a human way, yet Elias felt its attention like weight on his chest. The creature rose fully from the ice, towering over the wreck. Its body shifted constantly, reshaping itself as if the planet itself had decided to stand up. When it moved, the ground answered. Lyra sent a warning through the mental link. This being was old. Older than their civilizations. It was a guardian, bound to the planet's core, awakened by energy disturbance. To it, the ship was a wound. The power signals were pain. Elias understood one thing clearly. If they fought, they would lose. The guardian released a deep sound. Not a roar, but a resonance that shook the air. Ice cracked outward in a wide circle. Elias nearly lost his footing. Selene caught his arm, steadying him. Her grip was strong despite her slim form. Elias closed his eyes for a moment and forced himself to think. Humans survived not by strength alone, but by choice. By understanding when to push and when to bend. "We need to talk," he said softly, knowing words alone meant nothing. But intention mattered. He stepped forward. Lyra reacted instantly, fear flashing through the link. But Elias held up a hand. Slowly, carefully, he moved away from the ship and into the open snow. The guardian turned slightly, its attention narrowing on him. Every instinct screamed at him to run. Instead, Elias knelt. He removed his helmet and set it aside. The cold bit into his skin instantly, but he ignored it. He pressed one gloved hand to the ice and lowered his head. It was a simple gesture, one of respect. The guardian paused. Elias focused his thoughts and pushed them outward. Not with force, but with honesty. He showed images of the rescue. Two beings frozen and helpless. A choice. Compassion. He showed his people, small and fragile compared to the stars, yet stubborn, always helping even when it cost them. He showed regret for the damage. He showed a desire to leave without harm. The guardian did not respond immediately. The blue light within it pulsed slowly. The ground stilled. Lyra and Selene watched in silence, fear and awe mixing in equal measure. They had never seen a human do something like this. On their world, Negotiation came after strength was shown. Elias had chosen vulnerability instead. The Guardian moved closer. Ice formed and reformed with each step. It loomed over Elias, close enough that frost gathered on his eyelashes. The pressure in the air increased, heavy and deep. Then the Guardian touched the ice near Elias's hand. A wave of sensation flooded his mind. Cold beyond cold. Time stretching endlessly. The slow memory of watching stars shift over millions of years. The Guardian was not a monster. It was a caretaker, bound to the planet, protecting the balance that allowed life to exist beneath the ice. Energy was disruption. Fire was pain. The ship was both. Elias accepted it all. He did not resist the weight of the presence. He shared a final thought. We will fix what we broke, then we will go. The Guardian withdrew its hand. The blue light dimmed slightly. The pressure lifted. It stepped back. The ice around the ship shifted, settling instead of cracking. A narrow path opened through the snow, leading away from deeper fault lines. The Guardian turned, sinking slowly back into the ice, becoming part of the planet once more. The vibration faded. Elias remained kneeling for several seconds, his breath shaking. Finally, he stood and retrieved his helmet, sealing it quickly. His hands trembled, but his eyes were steady. Lyra approached him first. Her glow brightened, not with fear now, but with something else. Respect. Celine followed, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder. Through the link, a single thought passed between them. Human courage is different. There was no time to rest. The Guardian's acceptance was not permanent. It was conditional. They had to finish repairs and leave quickly, with minimal energy output. They worked faster than before, but more carefully. Elias suggested rerouting the ship's core to a low-impact ignition sequence, something humans used for stealth landings. Celine adapted the idea, modifying it with alien technology to reduce thermal shock. Lyra stabilized the structural damage using controlled energy fields instead of raw power. The ship responded. Lights flickered on, dim but steady. Systems hummed softly, like a sleeping animal stirring. Then the storm returned. Winds howled across the crash site, stronger than before. Snow and ice slammed against the hull. The temperature dropped rapidly, freezing exposed components faster than they could work. One support beam cracked under pressure, collapsing part of the hull inward. Elias reacted instantly, throwing himself between falling debris and Celine. The impact slammed him into the ice, knocking the breath from his lungs. Pain flared through his side. Lyra screamed, the sound sharp and unfamiliar. She rushed to Elias, helping him up as Celine stabilized the damaged structure. Elias waved them off, forcing himself to stand. "I'm fine," he said, though his body protested every movement. He wasn't fine. But humans rarely waited to be. The final repair required someone to manually realign an external power conduit beneath the ship. The space was narrow, exposed, and dangerously unstable. Another ice shift could crush anyone inside. Elias did not hesitate. Before Lyra or Celine could stop him, he secured a tether and crawled into the gap. The cold was brutal, the ice pressing close on all sides. He worked by touch more than sight, fingers numb as he aligned the conduit millimeter by millimeter. The ground shook. A warning alarm sounded inside the ship. The Guardian stirred again, reacting to the sudden energy imbalance. "Almost there," Elias muttered, jaw clenched. He locked the conduit into place and activated the seal. The system stabilized. Energy levels dropped to acceptable limits. At the same moment, the ice shifted violently. The space collapsed behind him, snapping the tether taut. Elias was yanked backward, scraping against jagged ice. His suit screamed warnings. Pressure. Damage. Strong hands grabbed him. Lyra and Celine pulled together, their combined strength dragging Elias free just as the gap sealed shut completely. They collapsed into the snow, breathing hard. For a moment, no one moved. Then the ship's core pulsed once, twice, and settled into a steady rhythm. The repairs were complete. They had done it. Above them, the storm began to weaken. The sky lightened slightly. As if the planet itself was allowing them one last chance. Elias lay back, staring at the pale clouds, exhaustion washing over him. He had come to this world alone. Now, he was no longer alone. And the final test still waited, leaving without taking anything that did not belong to them. The sky was still gray, but the storm had finally lost its strength. Snow fell softly now instead of attacking in sharp waves. The frozen plains were quiet, almost peaceful, as if the planet was watching, waiting to see what the visitors would do next. Elias sat inside the damaged ship, his back against the wall, breathing slowly. Every muscle ached. His side burned where the ice had struck him earlier, but the medical scanner showed no life-threatening injuries. He ignored the pain and focused on the sounds around him. The ship was alive again. Systems hummed in low, careful tones. Power flowed evenly. No alarms. Lyra and Selene moved with purpose. Their earlier weakness was gone, replaced by calm determination. They worked together like two halves of the same mind, checking systems, sealing damaged sections, and preparing for launch. Their glowing patterns were steady now, brighter than before, a sign of renewed strength. Through the mental link, they shared their final concern, the Guardian. The ship could leave, but even a gentle launch would disturb the ice. If the Guardian sensed aggression or greed, it could stop them. This planet did not forgive easily. Elias stood and walked toward the main viewport. He looked out at the endless white, remembering the moment he had knelt on the ice. That choice had changed everything. "We don't take anything," he said aloud, though words were not needed. No samples. No data beyond navigation. We leave it as we found it. Lyra and Selene understood. On their world, exploration often meant collecting proof. On this world, respect mattered more than knowledge. They shut down several recording systems. Star maps were locked, limited only to safe exit routes. The ship's engines were set to the lowest possible output. Even the internal lights were dimmed. Before launch, Lyra paused. She placed her hand against the ship's inner wall, her glow spreading outward. Selene joined her, adding her own energy. Together, they sent a final message into the ice. Gratitude, apology, departure. The planet answered. A deep, gentle vibration passed through the ground, not threatening, but acknowledging. The ice around the ship shifted slightly, clearing debris from the launch path. No cracks. No resistance. The Guardian was watching. Elias felt a weight lift from his chest. "Now," he said. The ship rose slowly, almost silently. Snow slid away as the hull lifted free of the ice that had trapped it for so long. There was no burst of flame, no violent force, just a careful ascent, like a breath being released. As they climbed higher, Elias looked down at the frozen world one last time. He felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. This planet had nearly killed them, yet it had also trusted them. That was not something he would ever forget. When they reached orbit, the tension finally broke. Lyra and Selene allowed themselves small expressions of relief. Elias leaned back in his seat, closing his eyes for just a moment. They were safe. But the journey was not over. The ship's navigation systems showed their location far beyond known trade routes. Communication arrays were damaged, and long-range transmission would take time to repair. Returning to the sisters' home system would be possible, but slow. Elias sent a message to his own people as well. A simple report. First contact. Peaceful. Details to follow. Then he waited. Days passed in quiet recovery. Elias healed slowly, his body stubborn but worn. Lyra and Selene shared stories of their people through images and emotions. They showed cities grown from crystal and light, societies built on balance rather than conquest. Elias shared Earth's story in return. Humanity's mistakes, humanity's resilience. The long road from conflict to cooperation. The sisters were fascinated. They had studied many species. But humans were different. Fragile in body, yet unyielding in spirit. Willing to face impossible odds. Not because victory was certain, but because it was right. When they finally reached a safe rendezvous point near known space, a decision waited between them. Lyra and Celine could continue alone, returning home to report what had happened. Or they could travel with Elias to human space, to speak directly with his people. They chose a third path. Through the link, they explained their choice clearly. They would send knowledge ahead, not of technology or weapons, but of character. They would tell their people that humanity was a species worth knowing, worth trusting. They would stay with Elias until first contact was complete. When a human exploration fleet finally arrived, the moment was tense but controlled. Ships held position at a respectful distance. No weapons powered. No threats made. Elias stood at the center of it all, a single human who had once walked alone through a frozen storm. Now, he was a bridge between worlds. Lyra and Celine stood beside him, calm and unafraid. The meeting that followed would be remembered for generations, not because of power shown or territory claimed, but because it began with a story of a human who chose to help instead of walking away, a story of two explorers who learned that courage could be quiet, a story of a planet that tested strangers and found them worthy. As messages spread across human space, something shifted. Humanity was no longer just another rising species. They were seen as caretakers, allies, and problem solvers. Doors that had been closed for centuries began to open. Trade routes expanded. Joint missions were planned. Knowledge was shared carefully, respectfully, and always, the frozen world was left alone. Elias returned to Earth months later. Changed, but grounded. He did not seek fame. He did not tell the story for glory. He told it because it mattered. Because sometimes, the greatest strength of humanity was not in its weapons or its machines. It was in a single decision made in the cold. To stop, to help, to kneel instead of strike. And somewhere, beneath endless ice, an ancient guardian continued its watch, knowing that among the stars, there were beings who understood what it meant to protect rather than take. Humanity had earned its place, not by force, but by heart.